BRICS has become a commonly used term as countries turn away from the United States and shift towards China and their yuan currency.
That's the real big play here. But what exactly is BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, and why could it make the American dollar effectively worthless if they get what they want? Let's go off the wall to find out. Well, first of all, who are these countries?
BRICS, it's an acronym. Some say it was a Goldman Sachs marketing ploy, but it was an acronym designed to focus on, quote unquote, at that time, emerging economies in the world. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Peter, it was a play that started in 2009, and the idea was, again, invest in these emerging economies, but also begin to tip a little bit the global financial order.
That's the geopolitical play here. The world after World War II was effectively reshaped by the West, by the winners, incorporating the losers and created a financial system as a result. China feels left out. Russia feels left out. By 2014, BRICS is developing a bank and currency reserve pool. They're trying to push the yuan and the ruble. And what they really want to challenge, Will, is the G7, which was started in 1973 as an ad hoc meeting of finance ministers. U.S., U.K., Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan control a lot of how the world does trade, economics, policy. Russia and China want to challenge that.
Right. And BRICS has had growing influence as of late, recently. Let's take a look at what's happened in the last decade or so. First of all, in Russia and China, or rather Brazil and China, kick it off. They strike a deal to ditch the U.S. dollar for the yuan.
This is on Wednesday. This was a sleeper story that didn't, there's a lot going on this week. But when countries decide to start trading in a different currency, it undermines our global dominance, which affects our balance sheet, our ability to finance future debt, how expensive that gets. And when you're $30 trillion in debt and other countries start dumping your currency, you're in big trouble.
And that comes on the heels of Russia saying they're going to trade their oil reserves, stockpile their oil reserves, using not the U.S. dollar, but again, the Chinese yuan.
For sure. India's an interesting one when it comes to BRICS because you and I grew up, if you're listening to foreign policy circles thinking, hey, India might be a big future ally, the biggest democracy in the world, yet they've moved into the arms of Russia in a lot of different ways, and it's accelerated since 2021. They've got a 10-year defense deal. They want to do $50 billion in trading by 2025. And by the way, Russia, the biggest supplier of weapons to India.
So I was going to say the most concerning part of that is the defense cooperation between those two countries. And then there's South Africa. We've talked a lot about China's influence, its investment, literally its investment across the world in South America, but also in Africa. $14.7 billion to South Africa.
The flags you see across this wall on each one are either the Communist Chinese or Vladimir Putin's Russia, who themselves have been getting closer and closer, and now they want to expand that orbit through BRICS. Because it's not just these 5 countries, Will. There are now over a dozen other countries that want to join.
They reportedly have letters of interest into BRICS, hoping to join. Here are some of those. China and Russia have expressed interest, as Pete said, in beginning to expand the BRICS coalition. Who? Well, China has reportedly invited Saudi Arabia, which would be obviously massive considering the role that Saudi Arabia plays on the world stage when it comes to oil. Argentina, Kazakhstan, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, the role Egypt plays in the Middle East. Indonesia, a massive country. Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, not insignificant. Now, these are countries that have applied to join BRICS, some the same, Saudi Arabia both, but a country like Iran, who's increasingly working with China and Russia. It's a new axis of evil against the United States of America. Could BRICS be effectively the finance hub for that? They're transacting in some ways in the yuan to compete against the dollar. You also get past sanctions. So why is BRICS significant? Think about the war in Ukraine. Neither India, Brazil, South Africa, or China have taken part in any way on sanctions against Russia. So if you want sanctions to be effective, they have to be as comprehensive as possible. If BRICS creates an alternate system where you can always circumvent sanctions, you've lost a massive tool. And that's exactly what China and Russia want against the United States.
They've got a bank designed to help out countries when they are in trouble. It's important to note, and I think that many of these countries have recognized the threat. BRICS is a starting point. It ends, by the way, with Chinese dominance. It is all backed by the Chinese yuan. It's all backed by potential Chinese power. They are the weight in that room.
History is not over, and they want to replace the United States and believe they can, especially if we're on our heels.